Greetings, fellow nerds and geeks. Why don't you pull yourself up a chair, grab yourself a beverage, and prepare to enjoy a geek-tastic conversation. Welcome to the Geek Easy.
Oh, I get to do the intro.
Yeah, you're the host.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Wait,
I don't have to do a voice.
You don't have to do a weird voice this time.
Yeah, he's not hosting right now.
It's good enough. Good enough. All right.
Yeah, you guys are messing with my OCD.
I'm going to start. Welcome back to the Geek Easy podcast, the most prominent, prolific, always on time podcast of 2020 is here for you guys right now to talk about stuff.
How'd that feel? It's got to have been almost a year since you've done that.
It's been a long time. March was the last time we've done like a full-on regular episode of this show.
Yeah, no doubt.
We got to do all the stuff with the
say.
Freak Easy, which was great.
Yeah.
But March was the last time, I think.
March 2020 was a solid 10 years ago.
Man, can you believe that's been almost a year? I can't even believe it. Yeah. Well, welcome back to the show, guys. We definitely wanted to get one more episode in before the end of the year because we've got some stuff to talk about, namely Wonder Woman 1984. So let's do it. I am Pixel Dan, and I, of course, am joined by my co-host, Mr. Jaron McCaffrey.
What's up,
and Jonathan Leonard.
That's me.
What's going on, guys?
man? Just juiced to be back.
Yeah, man.
Excited to be here.
Geeking ain't easy.
Geeking ain't easy. That's right. Well, we've got some things that we want to discuss today. In addition, we're going to do like a full recap and discussion on Wonder Woman 84 since that just dropped on HBO Max. But there's been a lot of big news coming out, and this isn't going to be timely by any means, but we still wanted to kind of talk about some of the big news that dropped out of the big Disney news, whatever that thing was that they did.
Yeah.
They did this big, it was like
an investor call.
An investor call where they're just here's everything that
Yep.
we're doing, and they just dropped this insane bomb.
I always love how that happens because they'll have in a normal year they'll have the big conventions and shows and there'll be some news drops and they'll always make a big production out of it, and then 2 weeks later they'll have the investor call, and then that's where you hear all the actual stuff.
Exactly. So this was a good month ago at this point, probably. It was back in December, early December. But they basically announced every movie and every series that they're doing for both theatrical and primarily Disney Plus. Disney Plus was a huge focus, which makes total sense since that just launched, the beginning of this year or end of last year?
Yeah.
Well, I think it was end of last year,
end
right?
of last year.
End of last year.
Well,
but there's also such a big, because nobody knows what's going to happen next year.
Right.
And streaming has been the only venue for most of this year.
Right.
So all the companies are we got to get stuff out on streaming, everything for streaming. We're going to do streaming stuff. And I mean, not to tangent here, but WB just announced
I was just going to say that
everything is going to be streaming from now on.
Well, there's
multiple streaming and theatrical,
yes.
But they're sending all their stuff to HBO Max because they really want that to be a thing.
Well, this has been a long time coming, and we've talked about this on the podcast before. This is where we're at now. Streaming is the future. It is now. Yeah. And I think the pandemic really probably pushed it a little harder, obviously, but it looked like things were already heading that way anyway, right? With streaming services being because they had even started doing some of those available same day on streaming service stuff before this whole pandemic started. They were kind of testing it to see if it would be something that people would buy into.
So I think I would say that the pandemic has forced us 10 years down the road.
Yeah.
In 1 year of where that would have gotten to.
Okay.
Because think about it. They were still doing. You're right. There's been some simultaneous releases and stuff on Netflix was huge and whatever. Except that the studios were still we'd get those little at the beginning of every movie when you go to the theaters where it's like, I just want to thank you for coming out to the theaters.
Yeah.
They were not going to let that go without a fight.
Yeah.
And I think for a studio like Warner Brothers to go, okay, look, everything is going to be a simultaneous release. Had it not been for the pandemic, that would have been...
You're probably right about that.
12 months ago, AMC theaters still had enough money and clout to where when they complained about technology existing, people were afraid to ignore them because they were the venue. They were where everybody was used to going for however long. And now that they've had to close their doors for so long, they've lost a lot of that power because they released some of these big... what would have been big theatrical releases. They were basically forced to release some of them online, some for pay, some straight to services where you had subscriptions for. But I think Trolls was the first big one this year.
Yeah,
that they came out and they said, well, we can't get this movie in theaters, but if you pay us $20, you can watch it at home. And, if you've got a family of 5, that's way cheaper than
going to the theater.
We
did it. I mean, we did it that weekend.
And tons of people did it. And now,
it was
now
like
the
a huge
studios,
success.
Yeah, now the studios have realized that there is money to be made other places, and a lot of that clout is gone now.
Well, AMC got real mad about that, too,
and they still are,
Yeah.
Well,
AMC has been complaining about Netflix existing for a decade now.
Yeah.
I know. And they've completely stopped worrying about their presentation or providing you with a good product at all.
Yeah.
They just exist to complain about technology.
Yeah.
I also wonder how much they hurt themselves. So much is perception. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think it probably hurt AMC and just the theater industry at large that, 2 weeks into the pandemic, Trolls came out. And they were like, we'll never carry a Universal thing ever again. And then 2 weeks after that, they were like, we're going bankrupt. We might have to close if this pandemic carries on any longer. You know what I mean? Okay. So you guys are tough guys who also then crumble immediately. You know what I mean? Like that kind of perception.
Well, because
matters.
Exactly, for sure. Because there were Disney started releasing stuff that should have gone to theaters on their streaming service. And they never even once pretended like we will never carry a Disney property again either. Were they? Trolls came out and they were like, Universal, we hate you. Yeah.
And Disney was like, cool, we're gonna go ahead and do this thing. And they were like,
and they marketed it properly too, because they basically put in with all the announcements like, look, we really wanted to bring this to you in theaters because that's how we design these things to be seen, but this whole situation sucks for everybody, so if it'll help a little bit, just watch it on this, service that you're already paying for anyway, and try to enjoy it, and maybe it'll get you, it'll make your kids happy, it'll get you through a couple of days without thinking about everything else, and so, we might be taking a hit at the box office numbers, but here you go, and then subscribers went through the roof, and everything else, it makes a huge deal because they were trying to help people. Meanwhile, AMC was sitting back going, well, we don't care how rough your year's been. Think about us,
right?
Yes. It's what it always has been with them, though. Always.
I used to love that company.
I know.
10 years ago, I thought they were fantastic, and they just lost their minds over a changing landscape. They have a complete inability to adapt.
Get off my lawn.
It's easy. Yeah. It's easy to seem gracious when you're on top.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, I've complained on this podcast numerous times about terrible experiences I've had there, and just like the concessions are outrageous. The prices, I mean, it's gotten to the point where it's laughably ridiculous. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, how can you even
it's become theme park bad.
Yeah.
And theme parks are a thing because most people go once a year.
Yes.
And AMC is a theme park that now expects you to show up multiple times a month.
Yes, exactly. Oh man, that's crazy.
And if you've got an innovative idea that involves movies, all they want to do is kill it. They don't want to adapt it. They don't want to work with you. They don't want to change the landscape in any way, shape, or form. They want to kill whatever your idea is, so business will continue as normal.
Yeah. Yep, it's not the way you do it, man. It's not the way that stuff works.
Boy, this was not in our show notes.
Yeah, no, but obviously we have this discussion all the time. We might as well put it out on the internet.
Yeah.
So yeah, Warner Brothers is releasing all their movies apparently on HBO Max next year, simultaneously with theatrical releases, which is a huge deal.
Yeah.
I mean, that them doing that plus releasing Wonder Woman on Christmas Day was what made me finally go, okay, I'm going to go ahead and throw down the money for HBO Max. Yeah. And I guarantee I'm not alone, because I know I saw with the release of Wonder Woman, their subscription numbers soared. Mm-hmm. So, and people will hang on to it. Yeah. At least for a little while. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And once they start dropping all those big movies next year.
Yeah. I think the hope is that the people signed up to watch Wonder Woman, and then they'll spend some time in the next 30 days watching better content, so they'll stick around.
Spoiler alert!
Shots fired.
Yeah, shots fired for the last part of this podcast. Well, everybody realized Friends was on there, and now we're all watching Friends over and over again.
Well, what about? Why don't we just juxtapose real quick? Also, that Warner Brothers did that, and HBO's subscriptions skyrocketed. And Disney tried out hey, how about you pay us $30 additionally to be able to watch Mulan? And I think seven people paid that $30.
I think that was officially reported. Yeah, seven people paid
that $30, and those 7 people were real mad. Like 3 weeks later, when it was just live,
when it was just regular on there. That definitely seems like something that Disney was like, well, let's try this and see what happens. Yeah. That didn't work. Never mind. Let's just go ahead and release Soul normal, because Soul just came out
for sure.
So like you can tell, it seems like they changed course real quick on that.
The waters.
Yeah, they changed course on that real quick. But obviously they dropped Soul the same day as Wonder Woman dropped, and we can maybe have that discussion another time. But I watched both of those movies and really enjoyed one of them.
Go watch Soul. If you haven't, go watch Soul.
Yeah, but that's doing real good for them now too, and that's getting huge critical praise. Soul is, so that's awesome. That's real cool. I think, sometimes I wonder too if the streaming stuff is going to be beneficial for some of these movies, because sometimes, like, these Pixar movies, Pixar is usually pretty safe. Most people will go see a Pixar movie no matter what. But you wonder sometimes if a movie would even do better on streaming because it's free and everybody's got the subscription and it's new, so they turned it on. Do you think, I almost wonder if more people watch Soul because of that than actually going out to see it. I don't know for sure.
Yeah. I would say probably not Soul, just because, like you said, Pixar is going to do huge no matter
safe,
what.
Yeah.
But I think there's a wide swath of movies that people would be a lot more prone to just go, like, if they can just sit down on their couch and hit play because they've already subscribed to something anyway, they'll give something to test that they wouldn't necessarily go plop down $50 to see, to take one other person and buy popcorn,
Yeah.
So I'm not to keep trending off.
No, that's fine. Let's do it.
So not Michael Bay, Chris Nolan was super mad at Warner Brothers, and he sort of led the way. And I saw when they announced that everything was going to be on streaming, whatever, and I saw a comment where he said, everybody, all the directors at Warner Brothers who went to sleep one night thinking they worked for the best studio woke up the next morning and found out they worked for the worst streaming system.
What?
Right? Because he was mad that they had announced that, because he wants his movies to be shot in IMAX, and he wants the theater experience, and he wants everybody off his lawn.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. He wants to make terrible Batman movies.
Well, you know what? Like,
he only made one terrible
Batman movie. I'm sorry.
Singular.
I like the other ones.
Did anybody go see Tenet? I haven't heard anybody talk about Tenet.
No.
And it was the only thing that came out in theaters this year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, hey, Chris Nolan, get with the times. And Chris Nolan, of all people, makes movies that are gonna thrive in a streaming system, because people will show up to, like, I think people will watch a Chris Nolan movie a lot more readily, because he wants to make stuff that's not franchise and not Marvel. He doesn't want to make Marvel movies, and his last DC movie sucked, and you know what I mean? Like you want to make this experimental stuff, and like people are going to watch that on streaming a lot more readily than they're going to go pay $50 to see.
Yeah.
And if you're not, from a studio side, AMC stands a lot to lose, obviously, if they're not the main thing anymore. From an individual filmmaking or artistry side, if you just calm down, there's going to be a market for your stuff. Even if you want it, like theaters aren't just going to disappear.
Right.
Now, there may be one in every town instead of 5 in every town at some point here. It may become more of a niche thing, but you'll still be able to get plenty of an audience and make plenty of money and make plenty of more movies catering to that smaller audience.
Yeah.
If you just calm down and work with, if Christopher Nolan doesn't like streaming services or wants people to see movies in theaters, he can still make movies that are designed to be in theaters, and there still will be theaters to play them, and people will still pay him plenty to do it.
Yeah.
And all will go along smoothly. The numbers may not be as big at the end of the day, but they're going to be there.
Well, listen. Legit. I haven't seen Tenet, but I've seen... what was his first one? Memento. Mm-hmm. Memento and Dark Knight. Right, all the Batman movies he made, and all of the. I love Inception. I love Inception. I love that movie.
Wow.
You know what? Like nothing he did in any of those movies is exclusive to the theater experience.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I like Inception more when I can pause it and go to the bathroom than I do when I sit in the theater and it's giant.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a theater guy, so I definitely get the draw to it, being bigger and louder, and you're more
immersed.
Immersed.
I would consider myself a theater guy too. From a what Chris Nolan makes perception, I'm saying that, if people want to sit at home and watch it, does he really think that much of his vision is being lost because it's not giant?
Well, all I'm saying is, like, I can see Inception being one that people would like better in theaters, and that from as a filmmaker, he wants it to have that opportunity. But I also agree with you, depending on your own preference, there's a lot of people who would rather watch anything at home. Mm-hmm. You don't have to have one or the other. There's no reason to get mad about it.
I think that's the key, right?
Yeah.
Like it doesn't make any sense to me why they're fighting it so much.
Right.
Like we can have both, guys.
Right.
We really can. I think there's a lot of people that avoid the theater experience altogether, and they just wait for things to show up on video.
Yeah.
Why not get that market earlier?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it's so weird that there's so many people are being so anti-streaming. It's like you got to adapt, guys. You have to adapt. Yeah. That's just the way things are.
It's all going to change.
Everything changes. Nothing stays the same.
If you can't
change, have to adapt.
You can't stay on top.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So Disney's stuff.
Yes.
Let's go through some of the stuff that they talked about, because they announced all kinds of stuff. And a bunch of it is for the
Is there any Star Wars
service
stuff coming?
So that's what we're going to get into first. Because, oh boy, did they go bananas with the Lucasfilm announcements, which was crazy. Now, some of this stuff we kind of knew about, or at least had been rumored. I just was not expecting to see so much of it. So the big one, of course, which had been rumored for a long time, which this finally gave us, I think, full confirmation, is that they're doing an Obi-Wan Kenobi series starring Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen reprising his role as Darth Vader. Isn't that crazy? We didn't know about Hayden Christensen. That's the newest announcement.
I think that's great, because I've always thought that kid was a pretty good actor in anything I saw him in that wasn't a Star Wars movie, and he was in Star Wars movies that Liam Neeson and Ewan McGregor didn't look like great actors in either. So I never blamed him for that stuff. I don't understand the excitement for this one, because I don't have a picture in my head of why that would matter. He's just going to theoretically look like Vader, Darth Vader.
Right? Yeah. I'm not entirely sure what they're going to do with that yet.
They're not going to use his voice. You're never going to see him. I don't know how that. So obviously there's some sort of plan around that. The other thing is, I have no idea why Darth Vader would be in an Obi-Wan series that takes place between 3 and 4.
This will take place between 3 and 4. Yeah, so
flashbacks, right?
Flashbacks.
I guess.
But the Empire is really up and running during this period, right?
Yeah.
And this is when they're rising. So
Well,
I guess
Vader can't know that Obi-Wan
can't
is
know.
still alive.
He definitely has to not
know.
know.
So what kind of part is he going to play in
exactly.
that's going to matter?
I'm real curious about it. I'm very hopeful for this. So this is the one idea that I've been the most excited about since they ever started floating it around, because I've always been a big Obi-Wan fan.
Yes.
I've always been a big Ewan McGregor Obi-Wan fan.
For
and
sure.
I really liked the idea of seeing what Obi-Wan was up to between those two movies,
and
because
like timeline and age-wise, it all works out perfect.
It's so perfect, right?
I'm super excited for that too.
So I think that could be a lot of fun, but I am very curious how they're going to work in the Vader stuff.
And that's one of the like if I let go of my cynicism and I assume that they know what they're doing, I'm excited about like Vader and Hayden. Well, that's the thing. If I do that, I'm excited about Vader and Hayden Christensen being involved, because if they're going to do something cool with it, that'll be great. I'm not great at letting go of my cynicism anymore.
Yeah,
I don't know what to think.
And I guess I'm going to throw that out there right as we're getting into all these announcements. I had a lot of cynicism when I saw these announcements, because here's my initial thought. So Mandalorian has been so good. Yeah. So good. And it's been like my favorite thing, Star Wars, and probably since the original trilogy. If I'm being totally honest, it is that good. I was so worried as soon as I saw they just blasted these announcements where they're like, oh, you guys like Mandalorian? Well, here's 50 more Star Wars shows. Right. My thought was, great. Mandalorian is so good that the negative effect of this is that they're going to overdo it. They're going to blow their load, and we're going to get all these half-assed, awful Star Wars shows just because they want to ride the wave of the Mandalorian's popularity. That's my initial thought, and that's still how I feel about most of this. Well, I'm worried. I'm very hesitant. I'm very,
Which is hilarious given the landscape in the first place, because they got Star Wars. Everybody was excited that they had Star Wars. They were going to make the sequel trilogy and all of this extended universe stuff, and they did that for a couple of years, and a few of them didn't hit very well. And so like before 9 even came out, they had already, I think, said we're going to scale back on it. It was after Solo.
A bunch of projects,
it was after Solo. They canceled a ton of them. They said we're oversaturating now. We need to step back and
garbage.
We need to. I like Solo. We need to step back and rethink.
I did too, but it was bad.
It's like we're oversaturating. We need to step back and rethink this. So we're going to give it a little bit of a break, and we're going to come back. And then the Mandalorian comes out and is successful, and their immediate reaction is, well, we got one that's good again. Oversaturate.
Yeah, exactly.
Oversaturate.
And but that comes back to them being like, and we see this in like, and I almost hesitate to call Disney Hollywood, but like in the Hollywood system, the movie system, right? They seem to find the wrong things. It almost seems like Disney is like, oh, people don't want Star Wars movies, they want Star Wars series, so just greenlight any.
You're totally right.
You know what I mean?
That's totally their line of thinking, right?
They're like, this is done with movies. Nobody wants to see more Star Wars movies, but they love this show, so we just need
to do
all
more
the
shows. Yeah. Now, you're right, and exactly what John's saying is right too. Because even if you go back and listen to old episodes of the Geek Easy podcast, when they first announced all this stuff, me and you both, John, were like really on board with this. Because we were like, they're just going to do the Marvel thing with Star Wars? Bring it on. This sounds amazing. And then they did. And like, I think you can just, like, you can hear our tone change throughout the entire thing. And now I look back on all of it and I'm like, I had a lot of fun when I watched Force Awakens. I enjoyed parts of Rogue One. But man, I could just really just leave
one part. You enjoyed one part.
Okay, you're right. I enjoyed one part.
You enjoyed 3 minutes at the very end of that
slog. And at this point, like the way I sit now,
one too.
Now that we've gotten through it all, and and it's over, and it's done, and the sequel trilogy is the thing that's happened, and I can sit at this point in the future after all that stuff, and I can think back on it. Man, I could totally leave it. I don't need it. I don't need it at all. I don't need it at all. And I don't feel the love for those characters the way I've ever felt the love for any of the originals. Like, it's just...
Well, that's the thing, though. They didn't do the Marvel thing with Star Wars. They had the Marvel framework, but they completely screwed up the execution.
Right. Totally right.
The reason Marvel worked so well is because they make individually entertaining, coherent movies, and then they tie them together nicely. And then with the Star Wars thing, they were like, well, we'll just make a bunch of things that tie into everything else, but also go in every direction.
And don't work with each other at all.
Yeah, exactly.
They all fought against each other.
Yeah,
that was I couldn't understand it. Like, none of these three movies make any sense together.
Yeah.
What are you doing, guys?
Yeah.
Why do they contradict themselves? They're supposed to be the same story.
Yep.
It's bad.
Well, it's like well, we had we had Captain America and Thor and Iron Man all made by different filmmakers, and then we made the Avengers, and it all worked perfectly. So we'll just do that. And it was like, well, you can't do that with parts 1, 2, and 3 of the story.
Yes,
Like,
exactly.
you can't just make everybody go and make their own individual movie that like is the Avengers, and then hope that they all fit together.
Yeah. So now The Mandalorian's been fantastic, and we have to give a lot of credit, obviously, to Filoni and Favreau for that. Now, Filoni is the guy that's been in charge of all the amazing Star Wars animated series that I love. He did the Clone Wars, he did Rebels, and I mean, that stuff's all been amazing. I've gushed about that stuff many times before. And Favreau was involved with The Mandalorian with him. So it's like those two dudes basically saved Star Wars for us.
Who also kicked off Marvel.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
Yeah. Favreau was behind Iron Man and all that. So it's amazing.
Hey, remember when he was Gutter in PCU?
So we are getting 2 more series that are set within that same universe, and the Filoni-verse is basically what everybody's calling it now. We're getting a show called Rangers of the New Republic, which we don't know much about yet, and then we're getting Ahsoka, which is starring Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka Tano. I'm excited for that because I love the character. She
was great in The Mandalorian.
She was great in The Mandalorian, so I'm very excited to see what they do with her.
Yeah.
Because she's one of those characters
that was
where
totally one of those like soft pilots.
It totally was.
Yeah.
It totally was.
I'm good with it.
But totally, it was great. And so she's one of those characters. Like, I don't even know if I don't think we weren't doing this podcast back when the first Clone Wars movie came out, but we had those discussions back when that movie first came out, where I had a real problem with that character existing, because I was like, how in the world does Darth Vader have a Padawan that we never heard about before? But then you know what? That series turned out to be amazing, and she turned out to be like this star amazing character that me and everybody else fell in love with, and they've treated her so good, and she lasted all through Clone Wars. She showed back up in Rebels, and she's like this amazing character who, like, she's not even like a Jedi technically, because she disavowed the Jedi Order, and she's like off doing her own thing, but she's got Force powers, and she uses 2 lightsabers, and she's just a badass. And I'm excited to see her get a live action series.
And that's exactly the kind of thing that makes me think that there's a possibility of being excited about like Darth Vader being in the Obi-Wan show. Because if it's ran by somebody who knows what they're doing and they have a plan, like you said, when you first heard about that character, you're like, that doesn't make any sense. How could that exist?
Yeah.
But it was handled well, and it does make sense,
Yeah.
So if that works out, great.
Yeah.
If they can do more stuff like that, turn everything on its ear, make it feel like it shouldn't work, but then it works, awesome. If they're just throwing stuff out to throw stuff out for investor calls,
I
just want to take one quick second for an aside before I lose track of it, too, to say how much I enjoy the fact that a guy named Filoni is in charge of what is essentially the Star Wars spaghetti western.
Right?
It just flows, Yeah.
All right, so we're also getting, this is another one that I think we knew about before, but we're getting one called Andor, which is about that character from Rogue One, Andor, and K2SO, that droid. So I'm not sure how I feel about that. I don't know if I need more of, because this will obviously take place before Rogue One, so it's in that era.
So the other good part of Rogue One was K2S1.
K2, he was awesome.
Yeah.
SO.
No, he was super
I don't
cool.
remember the droid name.
And that was,
I just remember that droid was awesome.
That was Alan Tudyk?
Alan Tudyk.
Yeah.
Who was always amazing as a robot.
Yeah.
So if he's in that movie,
he's in the show.
He's in that show, I'm in.
Yep.
We're getting a new animated series called Star Wars: The Bad Batch, which is supposed to be like a Bad Batch of clone troopers, I think. So that sounds. It's an animated series. Animated series are usually okay. We're getting some show called Star Wars Visions. I don't know anything about that. I think that's going to be one of those like where it's like every episode is like a different animator doing a different story kind of a thing.
That's neat.
I think it's one of those.
It's going to end up being it's going to end up being the Star Wars What If, isn't it?
That's
basically what it sounds like.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking.
We're getting a live action Lando series, but they haven't announced anything else on who's going to be Lando. So we don't know if this is like a Billy D show.
Yeah.
We don't know if this is
if it's not Billy D or Donald Glover.
Yeah. Donald Glover.
Yeah. If it's either of those guys, I'm super in.
Yeah.
If it's neither of those guys, I'm out.
I'm gonna have to boycott on principle.
Yeah.
We're getting another one called The Acolyte. No idea what that is, and they haven't given us any information on it. And then we're getting another one called A Droid Story. Don't know anything on that one.
All the way out.
I
hate Star Wars droids. Have I ever mentioned that? I hate Star Wars droids.
Is it just going to be Wall-E in the Star Wars universe?
Wall-E, yeah, Wall-E. And then they did announce one Star Wars movie. They actually are doing a theatrical film called Rogue Squadron, directed by Patty Jenkins. And we don't really know anything else aside from that. Hey, she did okay with the first one.
Yeah.
A week ago,
Remember
last
last week when that sounded like a great idea?
So that's what we're getting for Star Wars, and I definitely think like some of it I am excited for. Well, there's one other one too that was announced with the season finale of Mandalorian, but John hasn't watched all that yet, so I don't want to spoil anything.
Sorry, Internet.
But we can talk about that too. I am excited about that one on principle. I'm excited.
They announced a new Willow.
Yes, Willow is one of the other big Lucasfilm announcements. It's a new series with Warwick Davis returning as the title character.
So, I love Willow.
Yeah.
Love Willow.
Yeah.
I feel like it's one of those kind of lost classics of our generation. You know, like it didn't get any follow-up. It didn't become a franchise. I think everybody liked it when they saw it, but it was also kind of just like then other stuff happened, and it was like, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's a huge Willow following out there that I've just never connected with. I love Willow. There was a series of books that were like sequels to Willow that followed the baby, Elora Danan, that followed like her growth into becoming the prophesied one that she supposedly was, even beyond what she was in Willow.
Yeah.
And I read all of those and loved those.
Oh, awesome.
So I am juiced. I'm juiced for there to be more Willow.
I'm excited for this too, because this is the kind of thing that streaming services exist for.
Right.
I'm on board.
Here's the deal. Due to the passage of time and medical conditions, I will give another Mad Mardigan a chance, but you better bring your A game, whoever you are.
That was Val Kilmer characters, right? Val Kilmer's character. Yeah.
There was also, I think it was an arcade. There was a Willow video game that I really enjoyed.
Oh, I played Willow on the.
There was one on the Nintendo.
Was it the Nintendo? Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
It was bad.
But maybe that might not be the one then.
It was like a.
Wasn't it like a Zelda?
It was like a Zelda
type game.
It was like a Zelda clone.
Okay. I don't think
it
the one
didn't work.
Yeah, and it's possible I'm mixing stuff up in my head, but I seem to remember it being, and I think it was something to do with the ability you had to shoot arrows that I enjoyed the play of. But I just remember really liking a Willow game. I think, I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong, Internet.
I mean, you probably did. I played.
I wonder if there was an arcade one.
That's what I'm saying. I think it was an arcade one. I don't think it was on the Nintendo. I only ever
played Willow on the Nintendo.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah. I remember trying so hard to like that game.
Yeah.
It was like Zelda if you could never figure out Zelda.
The
levels were hidden, but like
so it's like the Zelda I played when I rented it from Farmore, and they didn't have an instruction book with it, so I had no idea what I was doing.
The original Zelda, you needed something.
I had no clue.
Yeah. I was going to compare it to the original Final Fantasy. I rented that game and could not figure anything out.
Yeah.
And I remember I went back to the Family Video, and I was like, what is up with this game? And he was like, oh, we don't have the book, and you really need the book to play that game. I was like, why would you just rent? I was mad. But that's how I felt about the Zelda game, or the Willow game, is like I could never figure that game out.
Well, that was the era where there would be an arcade game, and you'd be like, oh, I enjoyed this arcade game. And then you'd see a Nintendo game, and you'd go, oh, sweet. And because you were a kid and were stupid, maybe it was just me, and didn't know any better, like you'd get home and you'd plug it in, and you'd be like, what is this?
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, what is, Like, I remember getting...
I don't think that's because we were kids and we were stupid. It was because we didn't have the internet to warn us.
I was going to say,
fair enough.
Do you remember renting video games, guys?
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
was
I did
awesome.
that all the time.
That
But
was-
like, I
that was
remember
my
getting
weekends,
like,
man.
I think it was on the Nintendo. Like, they came out with like a version of Dragon's Lair, which obviously was
Yes.
nothing like Dragon's
There
Lair.
is one on the Nintendo.
But, yeah, but when you're like 7 and you're like, oh, I love Dragon's Lair, and then you get it and you get to take it home, you're just excited. Then you plug it in and you're like,
What is this? Yeah.
what is happening?
This
What
is
game
like
is
a
this?
cartoon.
Yeah.
So the last thing that Lucasfilm announced, of course, is that the next installment of the Indiana Jones franchise will be directed by James Mangold. And that's all we know about it so far.
They are still going forward.
They're going forward with
Okay.
another Indiana Jones movie. So that's going to happen.
I'm a Ford defender outside of the monkey scene, of course.
outside of the monkeys.
I was,
And the refrigerator scene?
yeah, I like the refrigerator scene.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, I get the complaints about it, but I feel like I feel like they tried to tell everybody what Indiana Jones was going to be, and no one listened.
Yeah.
Because I went into it and got exactly what I was sold, and everyone else complained that it wasn't 1, 2, or 3.
Right.
You know? But that's a whole different podcast right there.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say I'm not going to go watch an Indiana Jones 5. I'm going to go watch an Indiana Jones 5. I'll be excited about an Indiana Jones 5. All that's well. The draw to any of the Indiana Jones franchise was like those 3 guys coming back together. So like the second Spielberg steps out of that and it's just somebody else doing it, I care less now, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So that was all from Lucasfilm. Obviously, we've got a bunch of Marvel stuff, too.
So much Marvel.
So much Marvel stuff. Okay, so for the movies, we already know that Black Widow is still coming. Shang-Chi.
I am shocked that didn't hit Disney
I know.
Plus.
I guess they're
Shocked.
they're holding out. They're gonna do a theatrical release next year.
Yeah.
Is what they're doing. So Black Widow's next year. Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings is next year. Still getting the Eternals next year.
I'm just going to call this out right now. I bet we get Black Widow on Disney Plus before April.
You think so?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I wouldn't be surprised either. I wouldn't be surprised.
The thing is, I mean, Black Widow would have been a great theatrical release if done as planned.
Yeah.
To me, it also seemed like it would have been that perfect thing because, I mean, you know, you just hit your big ending. This is apparently, and again, maybe there's some twist to it that I don't see coming. I don't know, but as it stands, it seems to just be a prequel that fits into the middle of the rest of their giant franchise. That seems like it would have been the absolute perfect thing to go, well, we're just going to stream this, guys. It's kind of a side thing anyway.
Yeah.
This will keep your appetite going for the product. So we have something Marvel at all this year anywhere. Here you go. And they just never did. So it does make me think maybe there is some sort of twist that they're waiting for. Like they don't want to do a big reveal. Like if there's a big reveal in that movie that is going to lead into the next phase of stuff they're doing, and they don't want to just release it not knowing when the other stuff is coming out.
You might be right.
Maybe, but that also could just be me projecting hope, you know, who knows?
I think they're super relieved that they didn't have to release any Marvel stuff. Like if the theaters had stayed open this year, they had to release some Marvel stuff. I think they were super excited. Not excited is not the right word, but we all had a little bit of Marvel fatigue after Endgame.
Yeah.
And I think this has, I think they knew that, and they were like, well, we have all these investors that aren't going to let us not release Marvel stuff, but if we could take a year off of Marvel stuff, that'd be awesome.
That's probably good for everybody.
Yeah,
you're probably right.
And this has forced it, and they get to go, oh, sorry, investors, quarantine. We don't want to. You don't want us to waste our Marvel movie on a streaming service. We'll just do that with Mulan. You know what I mean? But I think now that it's been a year and we're on the other side, and they're still kind of like, well, maybe we'll have some theaters in this summer. I think by the time that looks like we're not going to return to normal by like May, they're going to go, all right, guys, here's Black Widow.
You might be
early
right.
next year.
I wouldn't be surprised. So the other ones that we're still getting in 2021 is Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, which I'm very excited for that one. Thor: Love and Thunder. Black Panther 2, which one of the big announcements in this was that they did say that they would not be recasting
T'Challa.
T'Challa So, to respect, why can't I remember his name? Chadwick Boseman. That they will not be recasting T'Challa, and that they were going to find other stories to tell.
Did you say that's coming in 2021?
Well, it's on their list of stuff that we already knew was coming, so that's probably 2022.
Okay.
I don't know.
I didn't know if that was.
I'm going through the list of stuff that was like. So
coming.
We knew that Black Panther 2 was coming already. So that's.
Yeah.
Blade, they confirmed, like they had already teased Blade. They had introduced us to the actor at Comic-Con last year. Yeah. So Blade's officially up.
And that's a movie, right?
That's a movie.
Okay.
That's a movie. Captain Marvel 2, which we found out about Captain Marvel 2 that they're going to be doing the Disney Plus series about
the Skrulls and
what's her name? The
other Captain,
the Miss Marvel.
Miss Marvel.
So they're going to do the Disney Plus series with the new Miss Marvel, and then that plays directly into Captain Marvel 2, and she is in Captain Marvel 2, co-starring alongside Captain Marvel.
Brie
Larson.
Yeah.
I cannot remember any of the actors' names tonight.
Well, we haven't talked about any of them for so long.
I know. Yeah. So that was kind of the big news to come out of that we're getting introduced to that character in the Disney Plus series, and then she will be a main character in the movie with Brie Larson. And then Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, of course, but that's not until like 2022, I think is what they said.
At least, I'm sure.
Yeah. So that is for sure coming. The new ones that they announced are Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania is the name of that movie, and that's
Stop it.
That's
great.
Well, it's Paul Rudd, and so it's Ant-Man and Wasp plus Michelle Pfeiffer and
Michael
Douglas.
Michael Douglas.
Oh God!
So they're
I want
all
that
in
to be
it.
Kirk Douglas.
So they're all in it, and then they announced that the villain is Kang the Conqueror is the villain in that movie. Yeah,
interesting. I don't know why. That's literally the most excited reaction I've ever had to the
Kang
words
the
Kang
Conqueror. I know, right?
Yeah,
But
and I don't even like that. Wasn't even real excitement. That was just intrigue, I guess, or surprise. That's what that was.
And then their big announcement, of course, at the end, which wasn't anything more than just the announcement, is that they are in production on Fantastic Four. They put up the big 4. And so there's our confirmation that the MCU
I hope these movies stay good.
The MCU is finally going to get their Fantastic Four.
I hope these movies stay good.
I know. Me too.
I want a good Fantastic Four movie.
I do too.
I feel like the Fantastic Four is doomed.
Man, it's not
pun intended.
Doom.
No, but yes. No,
like that might be the subtitle.
Hear me out. Like the Fantastic Four is such like a American dream, like golden age. Nuclear family, the husband, the wife, the son, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, not the son, but, Johnny Storm. Like, it's just such a...
The husband, the wife, the little brother, and their Rocky friend.
Yes.
that old chestnut.
It feels like a bygone structure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and it almost, to me, it feels like just that kind of thing that's... It's just hung out because it's in our mind as like, remember the Fantastic Four? Like, that's what made Marvel, and they're the first family of Marvel, whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like, there is no way to bring that current that will be satisfying. Because if you try and make it current to like what the family structure looks like today, nobody, like, that doesn't fit what the Fantastic Four was. Does that make sense? Does it make what I'm saying?
I mean, I think I see what you're saying.
I get you. I don't agree with you, but I get you.
I just think
you could be like, everything you're saying is accurate.
Yeah,
and it easily could play out that way. I think there's more of a venue to make it palatable than you're giving it, and I've got high hopes for that.
I just want this movie to give us an awesome MCU Doctor Doom that can be a big threat to everybody.
Also that.
Because Doctor Doom is supposed to be one of our main
Right.
Marvel Comics villains.
Yep.
That
Doom
is bigger than the Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
And I would love to see a proper...
Doom should be the big bad for phase 4 through 6.
It'd be awesome.
Yeah.
4 through 6.
Well, I mean, 1 through 3 was pretty much Thanos.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Well,
you didn't really know about him till the end of 1.
What about Galactus, the Eater of Worlds?
See, Galactus, because you can't fist fight Galactus.
Yeah,
I know.
So Galactus would be a great, like... I've said, like, I feel like the next phase should probably end with Galactus. And, like, that's, like, it's not Avengers Galactus. It's not Fantastic Four. It's just Galactus, and then we put whoever we want in. Like, that's the title of the movie.
Yeah.
And we just put whoever we want in that movie.
That's the thing. I think,
he's only got...
You can stretch Galactus out as a big bad over like a phase probably, but he himself isn't enough of a character to stretch out over several.
Right. Well, we've got all this... They've been building so much cosmic stuff, too. I mean, like, it seems like we're almost building up to the perfect time to do a proper Silver Surfer and a proper Galactus and all this other... They teased Adam Warlock already.
Yeah.
You know, like, they've really started getting into all the cosmic-y stuff, so I'd be down for seeing more of that.
Oh, I would love for them to do a Galactus thing. I don't think he can be a multi.
Right. All you can do with Galactus to keep him true to Galactus, which is what all the nerds need. Is Galactus is coming. Galactus is coming. Galactus is coming. Silver Surfer's here to tell us Galactus is coming, and then Galactus shows up and we stop him.
Yeah. You
know what I mean?
You're right. You're absolutely right.
Like,
it's very different than a Thanos type villain.
Yes.
Yeah. So
I mean, I guess Galactus could eat the Earth, and then we have to go back in time, and
then they'll just do Marvel. They can just do Marvel Zombies, and then everybody becomes zombies.
Save that for next year's investor call.
Okay, all right. So I guess the other thing we should mention too is Spider-Man 3. So they didn't bring up a lot of Spider-Man on this because it's still a Sony movie. But the one thing that they did mention on this whole big announcement with the Disney stuff is that the new oh my God, what is wrong with me? WandaVision. The WandaVision Disney Plus series, which is the first Marvel series to launch, which is happening pretty soon here. Is actually going to have an effect on what's going on with Spider-Man. Yeah. And then that is going to have an effect on what happens in the Doctor Strange movie. And
is that an order change? Was WandaVision supposed to be the first one?
I don't know. I think so.
Okay.
I think it was always supposed to be the first one.
I couldn't remember.
Yeah, I think so. And to kind of go along with all that, we've started seeing all these crazy casting announcements come out for Spider-Man, where we have found out that all of these actors that have played various characters in various Spider-Man movies have all been confirmed as being in this new movie playing those same characters.
Even Nicolas Cage?
So, well... What did Nicolas Cage play?
He was Spider-Man Noir.
Yeah. Noir. Oh, in the Spider-Verse movie. No, so like we already know that we're going to see Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire both as Spider-Man in this movie, alongside.
Did you say Alfred Molina?
Alfred Molina was just recently confirmed as Dr. Octopus. So they're doing stuff like that. Obviously, we're getting a crazy multiverse story, and this probably has a lot to do with the success of Spider-Verse. But also, they had already started setting up this multiverse stuff in the MCU.
Yeah.
They started setting that up with Endgame. Yep. And you know, like Doctor Strange looked into the multiverse and saw all those different outcomes for the Thanos fight. Like that was kind of our precursor to, I think, what they were setting up for with all this. And then with the Doctor Strange movie being called The Multiverse of Madness, they're obviously going to go all in on this multiverse idea. So I'm excited about what we're going to get with Spider-Man. I don't know. I get a little nervous sometimes when they're.
Do we know a date on that one also? Because I feel like it's coming. Like they're already filming that and everything.
Yes,
they're moving forward with it pretty quick. And I feel like under original timeline, it was going to come out like a year or so into the phase.
December 17th, 2021.
Like a year and a half or two into the phase. And now it's coming out like towards the beginning of the phase.
Now it's December 17th, 2021.
Yeah.
Well,
that's the date.
Well, that's the whole Sony thing because they're still Sony movies.
Exactly.
And Sony,
so Sony's not changing its timeline, so now they got to put it in a different part of the Marvel timeline.
Yeah. Which seems like if they're going heavy into multiverse stuff, seems like that's probably a little bit less of an issue. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Although I also want to mention, I think this is a bad sign.
Yeah.
As much as I want to see Tobey Maguire come back, and I want to see, I'm interested in a live action Spider-Verse. It's totally so. It just feels so obvious that like Into the Spider-Verse came out and was huge, and now all those Hollywood execs and the Sony guys
do more of that.
Yeah, they're just like, oh, everybody wants a bunch of Spider-Mans now. We can't just have a Spider-Man movie. It has to be a bunch of Spider-Man.
Man,
so do that for your Marvel movie.
Yeah. And I also wanted a sequel to Into the Spider-Verse, which I assume they're still working on that also.
That's a
but
thing
like,
that's happening.
Now, does every Spider-Man project have to have 14 Spider-Mans?
Yes, everyone. That's what people want.
I know. That's what makes me nervous, too.
Yeah.
I do know that I'd love to see an MCU Miles Morales at some point.
Yeah. I assume he'd have to be in that movie.
Because boy, have I fallen in love with that character.
There's no way they're gonna
Miles.
put tons of Spider-Men into the live action movie and not introduce Miles, is there?
I mean, they've already set up for it. Donald Glover was his uncle. Was Prowler. Yeah. So he exists.
Yeah. They mentioned him in Homecoming.
Yeah, he exists.
I really, really want to see Donald Glover as the Prowler.
Dude, me too.
Like, there's so many things you can just do. Like I will watch movies for just one thing. I'm all in.
Yeah, he signed on for that role knowing that, hey, look, one of these days they're going to come knocking. They're going to want a Prowler movie.
So I assume that was in the comic books. When I watched Into the Spider-Verse, I had no idea Prowler was Miles Morales' uncle.
Oh yeah.
That was the best part of that movie for me.
Yeah,
because I didn't know,
Yeah. So it's
nice. It's nice to be surprised sometimes, is what I'm saying.
Well, like Miles kind of only like Miles was in the Ultimate Spider-Man universe, so he's not even in the main timeline, and that's what they kind of
brought him in.
So now that he basically exists simultaneously with Spider-Man, but they kind of did that in the multiverse Spider-Verse movie because Peter B. Parker, I think, was supposed to be like main timeline Spider-Man, and he came into the Ultimate universe. Because the other Spider-Man in that was like supposed to be Ultimate Spider-Man, I think. So, so that's kind of cool. Peter B. Parker.
This is my favorite.
He's the best.
I want Tobey Maguire to play Peter B. Parker so bad. Like he just shows up and he's kind of miserable and cynical. And what better role?
I want that bad. Yeah.
Oh my God, Tobey Maguire.
Yeah. I didn't even think about that. That's amazing. Dude.
Yep. It just hit me now. We're a few days past Christmas. I didn't listen to that Christmas album once this year.
The Spider-Man Christmas album.
What is wrong with me? Now I got to go listen to it for 3 days straight.
That movie was so good. Oh my God, I love that movie. All right. Well, should we move on then?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
We've been way too popular.
That's
popular?
Positive. Okay.
Way too positive.
All right. No, I mean, we've been pretty. I'd say we're pretty even keel on that stuff. All right, so that's what we think about all the new announcements for a lot of the new geeky stuff coming out. But one of the big geeky drops, of course, happened on Christmas Day on HBO Max when Warner Brothers released Wonder Woman 84, which was supposed to be the big summer blockbuster DC movie this year. So obviously didn't happen, but they went ahead and released it on HBO, and we all got a chance to watch it over the holiday, as did most people. So let's get into it. Let's talk about Wonder Woman 84. How do you guys want to start this off? What do you think?
Well, I like that they shortened the title to WW84 because of the PTSD that movie gave me. It was like being in a war.
World War 84.
What a slog.
Yeah. Well, let me throw this out. Spoiler alert. If you guys haven't watched it for some reason yet, as always on this show, when we have these discussions, we are going to get spoilery. So come back to this if you haven't had a chance to watch it, if you're worried about spoilers. John, it's a slog, you say.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was super excited for this movie. The first Wonder Woman is far and away my favorite DC installment so far. Everything about... They brought back all of the same creative team. They brought back the main actors. They had a really cool motif. I dig the 80s nostalgia stuff. The trailer was one of my favorite trailers in recent memory.
10 years ago when
You
it came
know,
out.
yeah, no kidding there too. I love Pedro Pascal. I was super excited
Heck
about
yeah, the
that.
Mandalorian.
I love Kristen Wiig.
He's in everything.
Yeah.
What about that? What did I see him in? Oh,
He's in
that,
some new Netflix movie.
We Can Be Heroes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I love Kristen Wiig. I was excited about that, and I need to watch it again at some point just to solidify a few things.
You don't.
And I'm gonna have to because
I watched
I
it
was gonna
twice.
say,
It doesn't help.
He did it for you, John.
Yeah,
It doesn't help.
I will say my daughter still liked it. Now she was not super excited about it like
Also,
she was
kids
with
are
the
the worst
first
in
one.
movies.
And yeah, exactly. Like it had Wonder Woman in it, and they don't pay the attention in the way that adults do, and God bless them, they probably shouldn't. So I'm glad she liked it, you know.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it'll be on again here and there. I don't think I hated that movie. I just felt empty watching that movie. I kept getting my hopes up the entire way through because there were interesting, ideas they set up. There was potential for a lot of big payoff when it got to the end. It was really slow and draggy, but you're just hoping for the moment where it ties it all together. And because of the first one being pretty good, you those hopes are reasonable. And then you get to the end, and there's just no payoff whatsoever for anything at all. They just basically, they looked down and went, "We got 9 hours of footage. We need to cut it down to 3 hours."
I was going to say 2.5 hours this movie was.
So, so instead of coming up with a good ending and paying off some of these storylines we set up, how about we just stop?
Yeah.
And roll the credits and go home, And like 2.5 hours that movie clocks in, and I think there's like 3 big action sequences, and those don't even make that much sense.
So I had to skim through the movie. After I got done watching it, I thought I had missed like a post-credit scene, and so I wanted to go back and watch it, right? And
There's no good way to do that on HBO
there's
Max.
no good way to do that on HBO Max. I literally had to fast forward through the entire movie just to get back to the credits. I couldn't skip through it. So as I'm doing that, that's when I realized that aside from that little mall scene at the very beginning of the movie where we see Wonder Woman swoop in and save the day from the criminals, we don't see any Wonder Woman stuff until the 1 hour and 28 minute mark. We're an hour and a half into that movie before she puts on the Wonder Woman stuff and does Wonder Woman things.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting there watching
That's
that
nuts.
going, man, this really just feels like it's going and going and like what? I don't know, man. So like, yeah, it's a 2.5 hour movie. We don't see Wonder Woman until an hour and a half in. Yeah. That's crazy.
Well, I said there's that mall fight at the beginning, which was awful. Yeah. There's that car chase scene, which was pretty cool. There's a few moments in that where the choreography was kind of cringeworthy.
Can we talk about that mall fight scene? Because those 4 dudes come in to rob like the jewelry store.
Yeah.
Except they're not going to rob the jewelry store. They want the black market antiques in the back.
Yeah.
Right? These 2 puds walk into that antique bunker safe.
Yeah.
And they're like, woo, yeah. Like there's nothing in it. It all just looks like old junk. You know what I mean? Like these guys are not, and they're not there to steal like the MacGuffin.
Yeah.
To start grabbing random stuff.
Well, and if the front for your ancient artifact black market business is a jewelry store in a mall, like your security is not limited to the fact that you have a jewelry store in the mall in front of you. Like these guys just walked in like it was nothing.
Yeah.
Like if you're holding all that stuff back there, probably you have more safeguards in place than minimum wage counter lady.
What about that the leader of the clique walks in and he shows the manager his gun, and like he opens his coat and he shows the gun handle. He's like, don't even think about it. The manager is on his knees before he finishes that sentence. he drops and he's like who? Yeah. What is this dude doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I just remember in the bank scene that opens The Dark Knight. You remember when they're robbing that bank And William Fichtner's like a bank manager who pops out a shotgun and tries to stop these guys at all costs because he knows whose money is actually getting stolen. Like, that guy should have been in the jewelry store somewhere, but they didn't have anybody.
Yeah.
Well, then they run outside, and the dude drops his gun, and the whole mall riot. You know, like one lady is like, "He's got a gun," and the whole mall is like, "Ah!" and starts running. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, exactly. And this was the 80s. Half the people in that mall would have been packing, I'm sure. Yeah.
Oh, man.
So, like, the one other thing I want to say before we move on from this, and I'm not trying to go through the whole movie.
Yeah.
Okay. So we show up, and that fight scene is so cartoony. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. At one point she like punches a dude through a drum, and he pops through the drum, but like comes out the other side hanging on to a piece of the drum that's like spinning around like a Cirque du Soleil ring dancer. Yeah. Right. Okay. You establish like, and I've heard it said that they wanted to go more cartoony with this movie and sort of throw back to like...
Apparently it's supposed to be like a movie version of the TV series. Okay. That's apparently what they were going for with this.
So I'll give them that.
That means they failed on even more levels than I realized.
For real. But like they immediately go from this super cartoon... And we have this big cartoony fight scene, and the guys are... the bank robbers or whatever they are like bumbling buffoons, and like if you're using that to set the tone for your movie, just get us out of the way. Like, look, this is the movie you're watching.
Right.
Fine.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
This makes a lot of sense now, but not in a good way.
Not in a good way. But then like we come into that, but then immediately following that, they go into this long stretch of like, oh, look how sad Diana is. This whole sincere, and they show all the clips of like, pictures of her like mourning over Steve Trevor and how she's never really let that go, and she's alone and lonely, and like it doesn't follow your cartoon theme. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like all of a sudden we're all sincere and Wonder Woman's sad. She just punched this dude through a drum. But she's sad now the rest of the time. Like that tone differential there doesn't work.
Yeah.
Also, Wonder Woman, like her whole, like she's super sad about Steve Trevor. Isn't she supposed to be the one who's not, you know what I mean? Like who's not, her whole character is not wrapped around men and her love life. And, you know what I mean? Like, how do we just jump
why
back
is she
on
still
that
a
so quick?
damsel in distress or whatever?
I really kind of was going back and forth on that whole idea.
Right.
Because I'm like, look, it's been 40 years or whatever. Why is she still hung up on this dude? And like, look,
like 70.
70 years. Okay. So it's been 70 years. She's still hung up on the one guy. And like, okay, I get it. Like, man, when you're really in love or whatever, or maybe she's tried dating and nobody's lived up to Steve. I don't know. But yes, she's Wonder Woman.
Right.
It's not supposed to be about like men.
Yeah.
And and I know that like, I don't know. That's I was going back and forth on that idea while I was watching it, and I couldn't decide like which side of that coin I fell on. Honestly, like because I understood like the whole but when you find your true love, whatever. I get it. I'm totally fine with that being part of the story. That's cool. But like, yeah, the other part of me is like, why is Wonder Woman so worried about this dude all the time? Yeah. And like I got to the point too where like, we're skipping way ahead, but like when we got to the point where like, yeah, we're going to be all over on this. But like when we literally got to the point in the movie where she had to choose between having Steve in her life or saving the entire world, I was like, why is this something that she's so like this conflicted over?
And for the record, she barely made the right choice. Like he basically made the choice for her.
I know, and it just didn't feel right to me. Like it didn't feel like Wonder Woman to me. I don't know. Like that felt so weird.
So I went back and watched the first one.
Yeah.
Today. And there's several moments in that movie where Steve is trying to get her to do stuff. And he'll say stuff like, I can't let you do that. And she looks him right in the face and says, you don't get to decide what I do.
Yeah.
So it feels like, now, so like those moments were like, so there are powerful moments.
Yeah.
Even in the, because she's making that decision.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So now to find out, then she went on, after that, she went on to pine for this guy for 70 years.
Yeah.
It feels wrong for, you know what I mean, for Wonder Woman.
Yeah, it does. It felt really off to me, too.
Yeah.
I was really feeling that through the whole thing, and I just... I couldn't decide. Like, I was just like, I don't know. This definitely feels wrong.
Yep.
But I don't know. Like, I get the love story that we're doing, but it doesn't feel right for Wonder Woman to me.
It doesn't feel right for Wonder Woman. And the fact that you're conflicted means that it was the wrong choice.
Yeah.
It tracks with, like, would have been in Batman versus Superman, I guess, when she first, or maybe it was the Justice League, who knows. When she shows up in those and she's still got like because like Batman sends her like that old picture she's in or whatever,
that's in the first Wonder Woman.
Is in the first Wonder Woman? Okay, because there's this sense from present day that she still has this pining sort of feeling for him,
Yeah.
So it blends in with that fine, but it completely. It almost calls that out in the other movies now. Like, I never thought of that being weird until I saw how overdone it was in this movie. And then I go, yeah, like, why is she? Because now we're 100 years in the future in the modern day movies, and she's still stuck on this guy. Like, it doesn't even get better after this.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree with you guys fully on that level.
And in those movies, to give her, like, to have, like, a memory. She still has his watch.
Yeah.
And to send her, hey, I found this picture of you guys, and for her to, wistful. I remember when like to remember that, like to get that picture of her and Steve Trevor and Sammy and the chief, that little team from the first movie, and to get wistful and remember the first movie. That was a big moment. She left the mascara, she came, she fought Harry, she did all that stuff. Like, it makes sense for it to be a memory, an important memory, not that she's still like, what do I do without Steve? Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
Well, that's what, like I might have bumbled the delivery there, but that's what I was saying. Like, when that was just all it was in that one movie, it made total sense.
Right.
But now you watch all this happen, and you go back and rethink of that scene, and you just go, I don't know if that was what that was. Right. I think she might still be like this movie right here may not have done anything for her.
Right.
Right. Like, having him back again may have just made it worse now.
Yeah.
The other thing with that mall fight. That I got stuck on was, like, nobody knows Wonder Woman exists for the 100 years she's been out there fighting crime. In the modern movies, she's still this mystery. Nobody's ever seen her. So there is the reveal moment where even the other superheroes see her. At least they took the second for her to whip the tiara around and knock out all the cameras in the mall somehow. I guess, sure, whatever. But also still in front of literally hundreds of people, she's flinging around in a tight armored superhero costume, clearly superhumanly strong, and has a golden physics-defying lasso that she's flipping around the mall in. Cameras or no, people talk about that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, that makes the news.
Yeah, exactly.
What?
So let's complain about the villains. Who do we want to start with? Pedro Pascal or Kristen Wiig?
Well,
I liked both of the villains a lot until they turned out to be nothing.
Well, so here, I was gonna say, like, I want to throw out like some positives, and one of the positives that I want to throw out is I think Kristen Wiig was awesome.
Yeah,
I think Kristen Wiig is she's fantastic. She's an awesome actress, and there were scenes where, like, when she was acting with Gal, like, I like Gal Gadot fine, but man, Kristen like out-acted Gal in some of those scenes. Like, I don't know, Kristen Wiig's awesome, and I thought she was, like, I loved her character.
Yeah,
that, like, Barbara was awesome.
Yes.
Yep. And
she was built well. She had an interesting arc.
Yeah.
The trajectory of that character was easy to attach to and to be excited about. It just fizzled. Like, there was no payoff whatsoever.
So my negative,
the exact same problem with Pedro Pascal.
I was going to say
a little bit more problems with Pedro Pascal. But,
so my negative.
Well, Maxwell Lord, I should say.
I think Barbara was great. Kristen Wiig could have been anybody. She did not have to be the cheetah.
Yeah.
The character was great, and the cheetah part of this whole thing felt so shoehorned into this movie.
Yep.
Like it was one of those things where big Hollywood execs were like, we got to put the cheetah in this movie. Figure out how to do it.
Yep. We got to sell toys.
Got to sell toys.
Sir, we don't sell toys for this movie.
Yeah.
Nope, we're selling them.
Yeah. Like, her character was great, basically, for me, until she was cheetah. And then...
Which happened for no reason, it seemed.
Man,
So the point of this movie is there's this ancient artifact that grants wishes, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And, Barbara's got it at the beginning, and doesn't actually believe that it works or anything, but she's this bumbling, clumsy, nobody, she's nice, but nobody
she's like
really
a
wants
gemologist, right?
Yeah.
And, so she knows about gems and stuff.
Everybody doesn't hate her, but nobody wants to hang out with her. She just wants to have some friends and be accepted, and nobody seems to want to really talk to her because she's sort of off-putting.
She's awkward.
She's got this artifact, and she wishes she could be like Diana, not knowing what that means.
Yeah.
And so as that starts to happen and she starts to turn, at first she's just overconfident, and then she starts to dress a little sexier, and people take notice of her, and she starts to gain popularity, and then she realizes that for whatever reason she's got super strength and all this stuff. She didn't know what she was wishing for. And that's interesting.
Can I interject real quick to say that I didn't know that one of Wonder Woman's superpowers was that every time she walked in the room, every man in the room jaws dropped open and their tongues rolled out of their mouths.
Yeah.
When was that that was like a thing in this movie, and that's what started
that might actually just be a Gal Gadot superpower.
Okay, well, so Kristen Wiig wished to be Diana, and then all of a sudden, every time she walked in the room, the entire room was like, oh my god, and I was just like, why is that like a thing? I don't understand why that's one of the things. Whatever.
Yeah.
But it was still fun. Like I think that idea is a good idea.
That's a great hook right there.
Yeah.
That's perfect. Now where are we going with it? Mm-hmm. Now she's a cat lady for no reason, and I guess there's a part at the end where she gets a second wish and asks to be at Apex.
She doesn't get the wish, and that's the trick with the whole thing, right? So so let's talk about Max Lord real quick, and then we'll circle back to that. Because Max Lord's whole thing is he wants that stone, and then when he finally gets that stone, he wishes to be the wish stone itself, so that now he's got the power to grant wishes as long as people make the wishes on him. And it took me forever to figure out how this dumb power works, because apparently every time somebody makes a wish on him, he then gets to take something from them. Right. Yeah. That's the way the thing works, because they do that whole the monkey paw thing.
Yeah.
Be careful what you wish for. Blah 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 blah. It's that whole thing, that trope. So it took me forever to figure out what the hell was going on, because he walked into that first dude and was like, "Don't you wish that?"
Yeah. Basically, when it grants your wish, you get your wish, but you lose the thing that's most important to you.
Yeah, and then he was like, "Oh, cool. Then I'm just gonna go ahead and take this company." Yeah. And then he walked out and that all his and I was just like, what just happened? I did not understand
it is presented real confusing.
Yeah, it's not well explained at all. It took me until he did that several times until it finally clicked with what the heck was going on with this whole power thing.
Right. So the stone would when you wished on the stone, it would then take whatever was theoretically most important to you.
Yeah.
When he became the stone, he got to decide what he took from you.
Yes. Right. So that's so we found out it took me a while to realize it, but the reason he wanted to be the wish stone was because he knew that was he could then take whatever he wanted back. So he would basically manipulate people into making these wishes so that he could take whatever he wanted from them. So that okay, that's fine. That's kind of a neat supervillainy thing once you figure it out. My problem with that is I had no idea what his end game was.
Yep.
At all.
Yep.
I still don't.
No.
I'm watching this movie going, what is he after? What is his goal?
Yeah.
What is his purpose for doing this? Because he just keeps wishing for grander and grander. I don't understand where we're going with this. And even when we finally got to the end of that, I'm just like, what was the plan? What was he hoping for? Yeah. He just wanted to own the entire world? Was that it?
Exactly. Because that's the thing. Because he kept going to heads of companies or countries or whatever, and he would trick them into wishing for something, and then he would get their power, their money, whatever was most important to them. So you can look at it and go, well, I guess the assumption is that if he's going to all these super powerful rich people, he assumes that the most important thing to them is their money and their power. So if they make a wish, then he gets that money and power. My problem with that being, there's still no end game to that.
Yeah.
Like, what's your actual goal?
Yeah. What's the goal?
And B, like, you have a rock that grants wishes, and that's like, why don't you just wish for the money and power? Like, wouldn't that be a billion times simpler and give you less headaches and eye bleeds?
Yeah. So okay.
Know,
They kind of established a rule, which again they don't do for well into all of this, but they established a rule that you only get one wish per person, and then yes, like it starts having all these negative health effects on him because every time he takes something from somebody, he gets a headache, he gets a nosebleed, he gets an ear bleed, like something like it's obviously taking a toll on his body.
Well, I think the idea was that what the stone took for granting his wish was his health. Because remember, like in the beginning, he kept asking for his supplements, and he kept recommending his supplements, and his thing was
that
his health.
makes sense.
So
that's what it took from him from his initial wish.
What he lost was his health.
His health. Okay.
All right. Movie fixed.
Oh.
So before we roll on, I want to comment on this.
Comments, please.
Okay. So it's an interesting idea with him manipulate. Like he's got this wish, now he has to manipulate everybody into making the wish he wants them to make.
Yeah.
And you've got this amazing actor. Pedro Pascal is so good.
He's so good.
He's got this. You know what? Let me aside. I think everybody in this movie was really good.
Uh-huh.
Kristen Wiig was really good. Chris Pine was really good. Gal Gadot has a screen presence. She's not the best actor. She has a screen presence.
Oh, you were absolutely right. You were absolutely right. I think she's awesome.
And Pedro Pascal is amazing.
Yeah.
Right? So you've got these 4 just great performers, and they just and the stuff they did in the scenes, I think part of the reason like you watch this movie and you're almost like it's got that effect. We talked about it's got like the Dark Knight Returns effect where you watch it and you're like, I liked that okay. And then you start thinking about it and you're like, it was okay except for this part and this part.
That's what happened to me.
And then they did this. Did this really happen? And you're like, hold on, did that movie suck?
I called it the Dark Knight Rises / Rise of Skywalker effect.
Yeah.
Because that's exactly what it was.
Yeah.
Like I watched that movie.
You sit down going, this has to be good,
Yeah,
right? You get to the end, you're like, I guess that was good because it had to be.
Yep.
Wait a
And
minute.
then like I woke up the next morning and literally my first thought out of bed was, why the hell did this? And I'm just rattling off all this stuff. And then I sent a barrage of text messages to these two. Just like, here's all the stupid thoughts I had this morning and why this movie's making me mad now. Right. Because that's what happened. Like the further away I got from my watch of that movie, the more angry I was getting at the dumb things.
I think we get fooled because the 4 performers are so charismatic. You're like, okay, you know what? I can watch this. Like you give them the benefit of the doubt from scene to scene to scene, and then only when you can think about the movie as a whole do you come back to being like, man, this is ridiculous. But before we get, I
just wanted to publicize that text string real quick. If I could, you jerks.
Yeah.
Because I sit there, like, it's like the day after Christmas. I'm distracted trying to help my kids with 1,000 things. I start getting all these texts that I'm trying to keep up on and I want to comment on, but they're coming in fast and I've got distractions going. And so, like, I feel like I'm missing this whole conversation that I really want to partake in. And finally, 25 texts into it, I finally get in and go, yeah, what was the physics with the lasso? That didn't make any sense at all. And they're both immediately just like, it's a magic lasso, dude. Duh. Like, okay, that's where we are, I guess. Great. Good. Yeah.
Oh my god, no, that was dude. I fired off like 15 messages because I didn't want to lose any of those thoughts. And then immediately Jaren's just right there firing off his own. Like he's just coming back and I'm like, oh yeah. So then I'm like bouncing off of Jaren's stuff. That was ridiculous, dude. Magic lasso, Jaren.
Yeah.
Come on.
Well, I'm not going to give John any.
Yeah.
I'm not going to give him any.
Great.
You can't come in. You can't come in 27 messages into the stream and be like, "Yo, what about this?" Without getting something.
Without the
Guess I'm going back to my Pac-Man Connects now.
All right. So the point I wanted to come to.
Yeah.
With Max Lord and his whole he's the wish stone. Now he's got to manipulate people into making wishes for him.
Right.
You've got this amazing performer, actor who you could write incredible dialogue and exchanges and he could really manipulate these people into making the wishes he wants, and whatever you write for him, you know he can deliver them. But instead, he just runs up to everybody and goes, "Hey, don't you wish that I was really awesome and could have this thing?" And they're like, "Well, yeah, sure, I wish that." And boom, they get it. You know, and he kept doing that. He would just grab people and be like, "Hey," like he grabbed that cab driver and he was like, "Hey, don't you wish that wherever you went, cars would just clear out of the way and part for you like the Red Sea?" And the cab driver's like, "Yeah, I wish that." And then it happens.
Yeah.
You know, like he comes out at one point and he grabs this dude in the office. He grabs the president of the United States.
Yeah.
And he's just like, "Don't you wish that you had all these nukes or whatever?" You know what I mean? And the president's just like, "Yeah, I wish that."
Yeah.
He's like, "Cool, you got it. Now I'm going to take all your power and influence." And like, what are we doing? Like, hold on.
I'm the president now.
Although,
Well, in fairness, they had to hurry up and get to the wishes in all those scenes because they couldn't just take any of their 2.5 hour runtime to utilize Pedro Pascal for the fullest extent.
Man.
They had a lot of weird, slow garbage to throw in.
So they got to the scene. This is where I'm going to circle back. And this is towards the end, obviously, but we'll bounce back through some of the other stuff. Because he wants to do for whatever reason, he wants to get in touch with as many people as possible so he can grant as many wishes all at the same time as possible, which I still don't know exactly why.
So he can fulfill his ultimate goal of...
Exactly. Because... the only thing he specifically stressed during this was, well, I'm going to wish for my health. I'm going to get my health. This is how I'm going to get my health back.
Right.
But, like, why did you need to grant, like, every wish in the world to get your health back, right?
Yeah.
So, like, he's on the plane with Barbara on the way to the secret bunker where we've got this secret technology that can tap into every single screen in the world, right? And... that's where he says something to Barbara about, is there anything else, that you would want? And she says something like, well, I want to be the apex or whatever. She doesn't make a wish at this point. What ends up happening is when he's doing that thing where he's got the whole world granting wishes, he's standing there going, "Oh, and I will take your health, and I will take your health, and you're gonna give her this apex thing." And that's when he passes something over to her, and that's when she becomes the cheetah character.
Which still, like, because what happened from my perspective was, he got there and he started doing the wish thing, and Kristen Wiig was standing there. I mean, she had kind of become his bodyguard at that point. And she was standing there in her normal human form like she had been the entire movie. And then 30 seconds later, Wonder Woman comes flying in this armored wingsuit that could withstand the
we're coming back to the armor.
that could withstand the most
the whole world.
Exactly. Like it could stop anything. But then Kristen Wiig shows up, 45 seconds after we saw her as a normal human, except she's a cat lady now and just tears that armor to shreds.
I was so mad, dude. And look, this is one of those like marketing things too that like I should have seen that coming, right? Because they've been marketing this movie with that armor, right? Yeah. And like they set that up early on in the movie. Like, oh, this is this magical armor that we created during this one war where every Amazon passed over their armor so we can make this one indestructible suit of armor so that she
also has wings.
She could take on she could hold off the entire world. Wonder Woman puts that armor on to go into this final battle, soars in, Cheetah shows up, has a 30-second CGI fight, and that armor gets ripped to shreds. Are you kidding me with this? Like, come on. Get out of here.
I love it when Dan gets mad.
No, get out of here. I was so mad, dude. I was like, why would you even bother setting this up with this big backstory about this indestructible armor made of the armor of every Amazon so that Cheetah could rip it off in 30 seconds?
So you could sell toys and do your mid-credit sequence. That's it.
Oh my gosh!
I was gonna say, shouldn't you be in on this, Danny?
I be?
Have you reviewed?
I have a toy of her in that. I have a toy of her in that armor.
So you're part of the problem.
I'm part of the problem. No joke, dude. No joke.
So, how do you know Patty Jenkins wasn't going, "Hey, we need to throw Pixel Dan a bone"?
It's a good action figure right there.
Could be. She's probably a fan. So on the Wish broadcasting thing,
she was. She was.
No. Well,
So, like, when you're just fulfilling every wish of everyone on the planet, don't they get so contradictory pretty much immediately that the Earth cracks in half? Like, what was going on?
I got a big problem with that whole scene.
Yeah,
Well,
it just didn't. There was no flow. It didn't make any
fair,
sense at all.
I feel like that. No, you're right. I'm not going to say to be fair. I'm going to say I feel like that was the point, and that was what they tried to portray, but they did it wrong.
Okay.
Because what we find out about the stone. So once they find out the stone grants wishes, they start going. They go to try and stop Max Lord. Diana, Wonder Woman, sends Barbara, Kristen Wiig to go, I need you to go find out backstory on this stone so we can figure out how to stop it. And what Kristen Wiig finds out is that the stone has been popping up through all of history, and every time it pops up, the society it appears in crumbles immediately, and is like they talk about
They
the
did
Mayans
bring that, yeah,
and
they
the
did bring-
Assyrians,
Yeah.
you know what I mean. So that is kind of the idea that once everybody starts being able to get their wish, everything crumbles right away.
Yeah.
I don't think it everything in this movie, it was presented super poorly.
Yeah.
And they never really, the other thing. So I've been complaining because Kristen Wiig makes Kristen Wiig's wish is, I want to be cool and sexy like Diana, which ends up with her being a mutant cat lady. That doesn't. But what they kind of say at one point is that what she lost was her humanity.
yes.
Right? So when she loses her humanity, then she just wants to be this apex predator.
Yeah.
So then she's cool being the mutant cat lady at the end. So it follows this line, but it's explained not.
Yeah.
Also, okay, so Diana's wish to bring Steve Trevor back, which we haven't really gotten into too much, but that was her wish.
Right.
To bring Steve Trevor back, caused her to start losing her superpowers.
Right.
Barbara basically lost her awkwardness. And got exactly what she wanted.
Yeah.
Why in the world would Barbara ever want to renounce her wish and go back?
Yeah.
Right.
There's no real stakes there for her.
Yeah.
There's no, you know what I mean?
Well, once she sees, so
I know they said that she lost her humanity or
Yeah.
whatever, but how would she even know that or see that?
Yeah.
You know what I
Well,
mean?
because the idea is she was a nice person.
Right.
And
But would
she's
she
lost
care?
all that and becomes exactly. Once she's lost that,
Why would she care?
want it back?
Why would she want
Yeah.
to go back?
Okay.
And
Yeah.
also, I don't think they ever specifically showed her renouncing her wish, right? So
Well, they
she
didn't
lost
resolve her at all.
She lost the cat powers because of Max Lord's renouncement. But I don't think they ever
Did she
showed
go
her
back to human?
Did she lose the Diana stuff though?
So
She might still have the superpowers because
I don't remember her going back to
I don't
human.
think they ever showed her
They absolutely
saying
did.
They did. Okay,
Okay.
you've watched it twice, so
right.
I will believe you.
so here I'm gonna the continue where there was a good explanation for this that they explained super poorly, right? Because at one point she uses the lasso to show Steve. We haven't even talked about Steve coming back, but I'm sure we'll circle back. So at one point she uses the lasso to show Steve something, and he's like, I thought this made you tell the truth. She's like, it shows truth and it pulls truth, basically, right?
Yeah, truth is what powers the lasso, is what is one of the things she said.
But it
right?
can show you or it can pull it out of you, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so at the end, what she does when Max Lord is connected to everybody through not the Star Wars program,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And he's connected to everybody, and he's touching everybody in the whole world, and that's why he's able to draw their wish, and he's drawing their power, whatever, right? Whatever's happening. She lassos him, which connects her to everybody in the whole world, and then she is able to show them the truth with the lasso.
And she does say that because she says something like, I'm not talking to you, I'm
Right.
talking to them.
So she is.
Yeah.
So with the lasso, she's showing the whole world the truth.
Yeah.
So that is why all of a sudden, for one moment, everybody sees the truth and realizes that they have to renounce their wish, and that's why they're able to renounce their wish. That's why Kristen Wiig, and it does, in that moment it shows Kristen Wiig as a cat on her knees, and she's all sad, and then there's a scene where, it shows her on her knees as a human, and she has renounced her wish at that point, maybe, or Max, I think she has renounced her wish, right? But because she is able, so even though she has lost her humanity, because she has seen the truth now, she's renouncing her wish, and everybody else is renouncing their wishes.
Okay.
So
one of my issues with that was like, how am I supposed to believe that everybody in the world just went ahead and renounced their wish? But I guess that saying it like that makes sense.
Well, but it's still presented so poorly.
I was gonna say, like, I know that she did the truth lasso thing. I remember her saying, "I'm not talking to you, I'm talking to them," but I didn't even make that connection that she was basically using the lasso of truth to show everybody why they need to renounce their wish. Okay, all right, I'll give it that. That's pretty good.
Well, but that's the problem with the movie.
It is the problem with the movie.
There are so many good ideas.
Now here's my other thing.
Now that even now that you say that, and that makes that idea make sense, but even now that idea makes sense, it still doesn't make sense.
Okay,
like I get what they're going for now, but that's still not right. You go with yours.
Let me. This is my biggest gripe with this whole thing.
Okay.
Max Lord's wish, his only actual wish, was to be the stone. When he said, "I renounce my wish," shouldn't that have undone everything?
Yes, exactly.
Because then nobody's wishes on him would have mattered.
Yep, exactly, and that's the thing. Like, I hate to advocate for the cop out ending, like the Superman turning the world backwards to make time go back or whatever. But this is the moment for that.
Yeah,
because this was too big of a world event to just not matter even 20 years in the future when we're doing more movies. Like, remember, like, this isn't like an end of this character. This was something that happened to a modern day character 20, 30 years ago, whatever.
Right.
That and we get to today. In the current day movies, the age of heroes is long past, and no one's ever seen anything like this, and whatever. And now, like, I mean, she wasn't broadcasting herself as Wonder Woman for the entire world to see, but there was definitely like a presence there that should have been known. And I'm not saying Batman versus Superman had to start with a recap of these events by any means,
right?
But it doesn't feel like it fits into that future world anymore. And even if you're ignoring those things right there, they didn't really save the day at the end. They just stopped it from getting that much worse. Everything's still terrible now and will be for decades. Based on this.
And they didn't show that at all at the end.
Yes, and how easy would it have been for, exactly like you said, he renounces that wish and everything just sort of fades away. And it would totally feel like a cop-out, but one that worked right there.
Yes.
That would have been the perfect time for that. And even then, I don't know, they shoehorn in this thing with his son, which again could have been interesting and could have worked. There was a clear path to make losing his son a bigger deal than his health.
Yeah.
To make something, his son loses his humanity, his son turns evil, his son is in mortal danger somehow because of all this stuff. Not his son ran out of the White House or whatever and wandered around for a few minutes and he panicked so hard.
Back to find him.
Yeah, and he panicked so hard.
Fast traveled, yep.
Yeah.
He hit the pause button.
Yeah. Jumped in his helicopter, whatever.
So
and like, it just, none of it flowed right. I mean, you could sit there and put the explanations out and it does make it better.
Yeah.
But it still doesn't make any of it really fit or work.
Well, there's a lot of great ideas. So you want to hear my other fantasy booking for the movie?
Sure.
So, like, Wonder Woman makes the wish to have Steve back, and Steve comes back, and it kind of, the cost is kind of some of her powers, right? And Kristen Wiig makes the wish, and, like, she gets Wonder Woman's powers. Well, when Wonder Woman makes the wish and Steve comes back, he comes back in this other dude.
Yeah, what is that, too?
Why?
That was so weird.
So what if there was a version of this movie at some point where, you couldn't just take something, like you couldn't have something for nothing.
Right.
Right? So when Kristen Wiig makes the wish to be like Wonder Woman, she gets half of Wonder Woman's powers. That's why, so like when, Wonder Woman wishes Steve to come back, he can come back, but like they can't reincarnate him, so he has to take some dude's power, right?
Some dude's life.
Yeah, he has to take some dude's life.
Yeah.
So like when Wonder Woman and Kristen Wiig are half and half, that's why Wonder Woman has to go get that armor in order to fight Kristen Wiig. Because they're even matched without something, right?
Did you just write a better movie?
I think he just did.
Yeah, that's what I said. I said, how did you just write a better movie?
Okay.
Right. So like, that makes sense there. And then what John was talking about with like the complete reset.
Yeah.
So Steve Trevor is there through the whole thing. They don't like stop halfway. They don't send him back halfway through to give Wonder Woman her powers back.
Yeah.
Because she still had like some power. It's not like she gave up all her power, which why would the Wish Stone take half of her power?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, oh, well, you have to give up. So half of your power is what you love. Because she's still like, there's that whole chase scene where when she's supposedly
she's still Wonder Woman, she can just get
powers,
shot now.
Yeah, when she's supposedly losing her powers, except when she can still chase down an armored transport on foot while pushing one of the other armored transports down the road. You know what I mean? Like, if she loses half her power, then that makes sense. Then when we rewind, when Max Lord renounces his wish and we rewind everything, they're right back to where then she has to close the movie renouncing Steve to go back, and that poor dude he inhabited doesn't break into the White House and become
I know.
Like
know what
I
that
mean?
was one of my first thoughts.
Any of his time.
Like, they showed that dude at the end of the movie. Seemed like a perfectly nice guy.
Yeah.
I'm like, so did this dude just wake up and wonder why he lost several days of his life? And also, is he like a wanted man for breaking into the White House now?
He was walking around a party enjoying himself, and then the next thing he knows, like, the world is on fire.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Like, what in the world?
Yeah.
Yeah, and with
But it
all
also
that,
that also makes Kristen Wiig a much better villain for that movie.
Yeah.
Because if she loses her humanity and has half of Wonder Woman's powers, Wonder Woman has to confront the fact that, these wishes take away her humanity, and how can she enjoy her life with Steve when it costs some other dude his life?
Yeah.
So she has to confront that.
Yeah.
Man, they didn't even bring that up at all.
No.
Nothing about man, it's so weird.
So you're proposing an emotional core to this film.
Weird.
Interesting. Now, how are they going to fit that into just 2.5 hours?
I don't know.
I seriously, I'm thinking back on this movie. It is 2020, the weirdest year of our lifetime.
Of our lives, for sure.
For sure.
Yeah.
I've seen 7 movies this year because that's all that's come out. I usually see that in January in most years, and this is the biggest release I've seen all year, and I saw it 3 days ago, and I can't remember half of what happened in it because it is so forgettable. Right? I cannot fathom what they did for 2.5 hours in this movie right now.
Right.
I know it wasn't action scenes.
Well, I mean, that's the problem. I mean, I was just left so confused, I think, at the end.
Yeah.
Like, you were talking about, like, we got to that end scene, which I also, like, I don't know, something about the fact that the middle of the movie, it was the 4th of July, and the end of the movie, it was Christmas, made me laugh. Like, that was weird. But, like, it's like they do this whole, like, little happy ending at the end where, like, she's outside and it's snowing and everybody's happy and it's Christmas time, and there's that guy that Steve was in his body, and he looks happy now, so that's good. But, like, we just got past this point where, like, all these terrible wishes were made, and even though all those people renounced their wishes because of the lasso of truth, man, how do you just move on from that like everything's okay?
Yeah.
Like,
there's still a whole bunch of people who just died in the last 2 hours.
Yes. Like, okay, so that one dude wished his wife would drop dead and she did.
Yeah.
So there's a little thing that affects somebody, but also like that dude over in Egypt, right? Well, I mean, but then you've got that dude over in Egypt that that whole barricade came up around his land and like cut off the whole city from the water supply and like all this stuff. Like, obviously that dude's never like getting like he's always going to be the dude that like like conquered this area.
That's another reason why the cop-out reset would have just made infinitely more sense.
Exactly.
Because when they did get to the end, they did a half a cop-out reset. Like a bunch of stuff just disappeared.
The U.S. and
but then
Russia,
a bunch of other stuff didn't just disappear.
The U.S. and Russia went into full nuclear war with each other. We're just going to forget about that now. Yeah. We're going to just move on and everything's cool.
Luckily, they only fired the missiles that had...
The wish missiles.
The wish missiles.
They only fired the wish missiles because those disappeared.
Yes.
So dumb, man. What the heck? Because that was my initial... Like, that got to that point in that movie, and I'm just like... What about all that terrible stuff that just happened? We're just cool with that now? Oh, everybody renounced their wish, so we're good. It's like a sitcom ending. Like, what in the world, man? What in the world?
Do you think the pitch for this movie was Patty Jenkins going, "You guys ever see The Wishmaster? What if we made that, but we just made it an incoherent mess?"
Oh man. I haven't seen The Wishmaster yet. That was on one of our freak easy lists. Things we're going to watch.
We're going to do it one of these days.
Well, now we have to.
Yeah. Well, spoiler alert, Wishmaster is somewhat of an incoherent mess. Just about a careful what you wish for. It's Final Destination for genies.
Yeah, for genies. Nice.
Were you trying to unsell me? Because I'm pretty sure you just...
Sold. So, all right. The invisible jet made me smile. But you guys remember when Steve Trevor just figured out how to fly a modern day jet? And also, that was like a museum plane. Those things, I guess, are just full of gas and they're ready to fly around the world. Yeah.
So I watched Wonder Woman right before, like the first one right before this one. And in that one, there's that scene where he's escaping, like he's a spy and he's escaping with a journal, right?
Yeah.
And he runs out and jumps in one of the World War II era planes and takes off.
World War I, right?
Yeah. World War I. Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
So he jumps in that plane. There is literally, like, they show the cockpit when he jumps in. There is literally a stick and like one lever he throws.
Yeah.
That starts that thing.
Yeah.
And it was just so, I was like, because he jumps in and grabs that and flies it away. And I was just so like, and then in the next one, he jumps in, and there's buttons, and there's not even a joy.
There's definitely
stick.
A computer in these planes in the 80s, right?
Yeah,
he doesn't know anything about computers.
And 100 different dials in front of him, and all kinds of switches. And he's like, gas.
I know,
gas.
He specifically is like fuel. Oh, yep, there it is.
Yeah, and then
like
that takes off. I'm like.
And my favorite part about that too is they literally just had like a scene where like he was looking at something with a giant airplane on it, and they made sure to say, "Oh, we have big airplanes that can fly around the world now," and he was like so amazed by that. Yeah. Then they jump in this little museum fighter plane, and he flies across the world.
He was real confused by a trash can.
Yes, I know.
Yeah, he couldn't. They do that scene. They do the scene when he brings Diana back to that dude's apartment. He was like, "I was gonna come over. I was going to ride over and see you, but I couldn't figure out the bike." And he like shows her an exercise bike. Like, you can't figure out an exercise bike, but you jumped right on this jet and flew this jet.
Yeah, man.
That's a little known secret pilots don't want us to know. All those buttons are just for show.
They're just for show. Fancy lights.
Planes are still just one stick and a lever.
But if he still wouldn't know that. Even if that were the thing, he should have jumped in there and been like, "What is all this stuff? Ours only had." We agreed in 1920. We agreed planes would always be just one lever and a joystick. Like, I don't know what all this is.
We agreed.
I was at the meeting.
Diana figuring out flight was more enjoyable than Clark Kent figuring out flight.
Can she fly?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
So she definitely flew in
just ride the lightning.
She definitely flew in that Justice League cartoon that I used to watch. She could fly in that. So I've always just thought Wonder Woman could fly. So
and that's another thing though. Like, I'm fine with that, but this movie's so bad at delivering its own points. I couldn't tell if she was flying or gliding.
Yeah,
well, that's probably what it is.
I can't even tell.
That's probably how they would explain her flight, right? She can glide on the wind or manipulate the wind.
Lassoing lightning.
She did start lassoing the lightning, which I do always like when she does that. I liked that in the first movie when she lassoed the lightning.
Well, also, what about how like she just figured it out because Steve
had said something earlier.
Aerodynamics was a thing.
I knew that's where they were going as soon as he said it.
It's all just lift and wind, and you just learn to ride it. And so she was just like, "Oh, that's it.
That's all we got to do." Yeah, she did the Superman pose when she was flying. She totally did the Superman pose.
But did you see how her hand was like she was steering? She's
in the wind.
It was so specific. She like pulled that hand back and was like, "Oh, this way, nope, this way."
At least that scene was full of joy. Unlike the Superman, any of the Man of Steel stuff.
Oh man. I'm sad that I'm flying.
I'm sad that I'm flying. Oh, I'm sad I'm not Batman. All right. Well, I don't know. Do you guys have anything else? Have we done enough? Have we said enough?
Yeah, more than enough, I'm sure. It was a bummer.
It was a bummer. And look, I was the same. I was in the same spot as you. Like, that movie finished, and like I didn't feel like excited or happy. It just kind of ended, and I was just kind of like, well, I don't know. I don't know how I feel. Like, there were definitely parts of it like that I smiled at, or like, whatever. But it was totally that thing. Like, I woke up the next morning and all of a sudden it was just like, man, I'm just thinking about all these things. Yeah. And that's where I'm at now. I just can't get past all that stuff.
Having said everything we've said for the last hour or however long it's been, it's still my fourth favorite DC movie.
Yeah.
But a solid reminder that that's not a compliment.
What's number one?
Wonder Woman.
Wonder Woman 1?
Wonder Woman.
Two is Shazam for me.
Oh, Shazam.
Yeah.
I did like Shazam a lot.
And I liked Aquaman more than this.
Aquaman was surprisingly fun. I liked Aquaman. I liked Birds of Prey.
Aquaman was
Birds of Prey was
real good. Yeah, Birds of Prey.
I like Birds of Prey and Suicide Squad better than Wonder Woman 84.
Birds of Prey is... I didn't like Suicide Squad.
I feel like Suicide Squad is one step up from Wonder Woman, where like you watch Suicide Squad and it's at least it's fun to look at.
Yeah,
and it was more fun to look at than Wonder Woman 84.
I'll put Birds of Prey and Shazam on a similar level. I'd have to think about which one I liked more, but those are definitely 2 and 3. I would put this on a similar level with Suicide Squad in ways like. It's a mess and I don't like it, but there are parts I enjoyed. In Suicide Squad, there are just like moments of fun. Yeah. In this one, I did like all the performances. I liked a lot of the ideas that were started. There was some stuff I could grasp onto. It didn't wrap itself up at all.
There was potential in this movie,
exactly,
for sure. Yeah. And like you guys said, all of the acting was pretty awesome. Like I like all these actors quite a bit, and the potential was there. The execution was just not.
Yeah.
It was.
I honestly think they could fix 80% of this movie with a few reshoots and re-edits.
Shorten it a little bit.
Yeah, shorten it a bunch. Add an action scene. Actually flush out a couple of these ideas with a better ending.
Tell us why Max Lord's doing what he's doing.
You've got at least a halfway decent movie, because it wasn't up to like right up until the point that it ended. I kept thinking I was going to like it.
Yeah.
If they would have tied some stuff up and given me cooler endings and concepts and made me understand a couple of those things better. There was some potential there. They just completely blew all of that to pieces. There's not a good movie in any re-edit of Suicide Squad. There's fun moments in it. I don't hate that movie by any means, but it's not good.
I maybe don't. I think I agree with you. I think I agree with you. I still enjoy watching Suicide Squad more than I enjoy watching.
And that's fair
at this level.
Totally fair.
For me, in this crazy year, all the uncertainty and just the world seeming like it's coming apart, it feels good to me to know that like there are some constants, like DC will always suck.
That's what this podcast exists for, to remind you guys.
Yeah.
If nothing else.
Oh, boy.
If nothing else ever goes back to normal, if the world is forever changed, if we have lived through an apocalypse,
you know what,
and we're on the other side now, DC will still suck. Warner Brothers will always miss the point, at least.
No, that's for sure. Yeah. That is for sure. I was going to say, like, after you just said that list of movies, we've actually been on a pretty positive DC string on this show, because we were pretty positive about Birds of Prey and Aquaman and Shazam and all of those. And here we are back with Wonder Woman 84. Back to it again. So, oh boy.
And there is no hope for that Flashpoint movie.
Oh, I want there to be.
Oh, come on.
But you're right.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that excites me the most about the next Spider-Man is that hopefully Marvel will just
Out Flashpoint.
before Flashpoint even has a chance to be a thing, man.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's totally what it is. Oh no.
And then they can just rerun the Suicide Squad marketing campaign, which was like, hey, you remember Guardians of the Galaxy? What if it sucked?
What if it, I forgot that was like. Remember when that movie had like 40 pop songs in the first 10 minutes because they were really trying to ride that Guardians of the Galaxy bandwagon?
Exactly. Yeah, well, because like they somebody watched that movie and went, oh, everybody loves the soundtrack, so we'll just put the entire soundtrack in our opening scene.
In our opening sequence.
And, then people will have the soundtrack, and then what are they going to complain about?
Yeah. Oh, boy. All right. Whew. Well,
Good to be back.
Did you guys miss us? Thanks for joining us for our final episode of 2020. Good riddance to this year. Hopefully we'll be back shortly and we can get things back going again. Hopefully there'll be a lot of new things for us to talk about in the coming year here. But
that's been the thing that's held us back. For everybody who's like, we make jokes about not being consistent and we get up sometimes and not like. There were a lot of times where we were like, should we record an episode? What would we talk about?
What are we going to talk about?
There's been
we've kind of been brainstorming some stuff too, and like we had so much fun doing the Freak Easy and talking about all those old horror movies that we're definitely going to be doing more of that sort of thing with the Geek Easy podcast, just talking about various movie franchises and stuff like that. So you guys definitely have that to look forward to. So even if there's not anything super new to talk about because of the state of the world, we'll try to at least get together to start doing more of that sort of thing. We've definitely tossed around some ideas and we want to do more of that. So we will make our best effort.
There you go.
Make our best effort to
If 2020
get the show.
has taught us anything, it's don't make promises.
Exactly. I'm not going to promise anything, but hopefully you guys stick around regardless. Don't delete us from your feeds because that way you'll be pleasantly surprised when we start uploading episodes pretty regularly again. How about that? So with that in mind, we are available on all of the major podcasting platforms. So Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, which should also include YouTube Music, Spotify, all of that stuff, Podbean. Feel free to find us there, subscribe to us, follow us, leave us a rating, all that good stuff. We are also over on YouTube. Just do a search for the Geek Easy Podcast and hit that subscribe button. That way, if you guys prefer to see the video version, or if that's just where you listen to your stuff, you can follow us that way as well. So lots of different ways to follow us on whatever your preferred app is. All right, guys, anything else you'd like to add to end off the year?
No.
Yep. Nope. 2020, nope. That's all we got. 2020, bad, yay. All right, guys. Well, until next time, I am Pixel Dan.
I'm Jerry McCaffrey.
And Jonathan Leonard.
We'll see you guys in 2021. Take care, everybody.
The Geek Easy Podcast is a production of PixelDan.com. Musical tracks used in the intro and outro are used with full permission of the respective owners or creators. Intro and outro narrations are provided by me, Brian T. Stevenson. PixelDan.com's The Geek Easy Podcast is provided for entertainment purposes only. The views expressed are those solely of the hosts or guests and do not necessarily represent those of PixelDan.com or any other party. Be sure to join us next time for another installment of the Geek Easy Podcast.